I'd encourage anyone with a warehouse that's got head height to consider a mezzanine floor, and we particularly encourage people to start thinking about using their warehouse space in a cubic sense rather than a footprint sense. So think about what height's above you, and that's where a mezzanine really comes into play, because you can double your floor space easily, quickly, and they're affordable, and you can get additional office, storage, retail or production space. They are manufactured using primary, secondary steels, so columns, main beams and purlins, and they're decked with a timber deck which acts as a platform. You access the mezzanine through a steel staircase. These can be either a very traditional steel staircase or they can be glass balustrade staircases depending on requirements, and any exposed edges are generally finished with a handrail. So the main uses are for additional storage space, where people have slow-moving stock, they want to put them in the air and release the floor space for more productive things. Another common use is production areas for machinery or temperature-controlled rooms, and you can have a hybrid of storage on top, production space on the bottom, or vice versa. But more commonly now that developers generally build empty shells, they're used for office space. So when somebody buys a building now, they're generally left with just a small kitchen area and a toilet area, and it's down to the tenant to design and build the office space. So rather than go down an architect route and look at a traditional block and beam solution, they look towards a mezzanine solution because they're really quick to install. They're very cost effective when you compare them to a block and beam solution. And that's where over the last sort of 3 to 4 years they've become incredibly popular. Generally, when you meet somebody that's looking at a new premises for the building, they're looking at the square footage of the building and they're trying their best to facilitate how much space do I need for racking, how much space do I need for office space, how much space do I need for my production. And people generally think of it as a 2D footprint. And what we try and really encourage people to do is think of their warehouse in cubic square metres rather than as a footprint, because if you've got height available, this is where a mezzanine really becomes beneficial, because you can put your office space in the air, you can put your production space in the air, you can put your storage space in the air, and what that means generally is people need a smaller building than they first anticipate, which has loads of benefits. Yeah, you've got the outlay of the mezzanine floor, but it's over the long term a lot cheaper than paying additional rates or additional rent. So definitely when you're considering looking at a new premises or moving, get somebody involved that's familiar with mezzanine floors, and maybe they can help you pinpoint exactly the square footage you need for your warehouse. When you consider them to the cost of additional external storage or additional rates that you'd pay if you need a building, they're considerably cheaper. But to give a budget price off the bat is very difficult, and the reason being is because they're all bespoke solutions. Every warehouse is slightly different, every circumstance is slightly different. So in order to get a price, you need to get somebody in, understand what your requirements are, they'll then create a bespoke design, and then from there you can get your comparisons. But if you're really pushing me for a price and the grid is standard, so let's say a 5 by 4 metre grid, anywhere between sort of 60 to £80 a square metre should give you an indication for a basic storage mezzanine. The first option is to find some companies that are local to yourself and invite them to give you a quote. And I'd really go to town on asking the person who comes to visit you how much experience they've got when it comes to designing mezzanine floors. Mezzanine floors are quite a basic solution. The columns, main beams, secondary beams and a timber deck. However, the skill lies in being able to listen to the client's requirement, understand what the client needs to achieve, and make that mezzanine as inconspicuous to that operation as possible. So a good mezzanine floor designer is trying to hide the columns or think of clever ways to make sure that no one's going to clash with the column, or you can move your stock properly, or if we're designing an office that the columns are in the corner of rooms, and there's little tricks with cantilevering beams, etc. So invite the companies in, but don't just look at the website and think that's a good company. Actually go to town asking the person who's designing the floor, what experience have you got? Can you show me some previous designs, and can you demonstrate that you're a good, competent mezzanine designer? The mezzanine part is relatively simple, however it becomes more complicated when you incorporate other aspects into the design. So let's say your mezzanine floor needs to work with a partitioning system and an air conditioning system or a sprinkler system and electrical lighting and power and that. So this is where tying those things in together and engaging with somebody that's got an understanding about all these different aspects, that's what's referred to as a principal designer. So when you create any construction project at your company, you're obligated to cover two boxes, and that's one is a principal designer, which is the person that designs it all in the pre-construction phase and make sure everything works together. And then the second part is you've got to appoint a principal contractor, which means you can't give an order to a mezzanine company, a partitioning company, an electrical company and just throw them together on site. You've got to have one contractor that oversees them all. So the most important part for you is making sure that they're a competent designer and they can deliver these multiple trades. We'll put a link below to the HSE website that tells you about the principal designer and principal contractor roles, because they're really important that you understand your obligation when completing a project of this nature. If you're looking at a mezzanine floor for your business, we'd be delighted to help. We have expertise in storage, production and office mezzanine floors. We offer complete free site surveys, so we'll visit you at your premises, listen to what you need to achieve, and then we'll go away and do a full design, offer you a full itemised quote, and we'll really help you get the best value for money and, more importantly, the best solution for your business when it comes to your mezzanine floor.